Today is Super Tuesday, primary night across parts of the country as Americans decide who will be on the ballot come November. WRAL is a team of reporters and photographers fanned out across the state, covering today's results.
It was easy to call the presidential primaries for President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump here in North Carolina, a trend simply we saw across multiple states tonight.
So far, GOP challenger Nikki Haley has managed to win just Washington, D.C. and its 19 delegates. She is way behind the frontrunner Donald Trump. We begin with Mark Boyle. He's in the Live Center. Mark, today essentially seals the deal for the former president as the GOP nominee, barring a major surprise.
That's what it seems like right now, Gerald. A live look right now down in Palm Beach. This is in Mar-a-Lago, Mr. Trump's residence there. We are expecting to hear from him momentarily. He has picked up 11 states so far here on Super Tuesday as polls are still starting to close out to the west. One theme that we've talked about here this evening, Mr. Trump is winning in most and all of these states, but it's about 80% or so. He has to do some unifying within the Republican Party going over the next few months. I want to show you one last thing before we send things back to you. This is the state of Colorado. 62% to Mr. Trump, to Nikki Haley, 34%. This was the state up until yesterday. Mr. Trump may not have even been on the ballot. There was some question about that. He's got a lot of support, but still a lot of work to do within the party to get all of those Haley supporters on his side. We'll send things back to you.
Yeah, the Supreme Court clearing the way for him to be on that ballot. Mark, thank you. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Let's track how the presidential candidates fared in North Carolina. Let's take a look at how the Republican votes broke down. You see there President Trump, former President Trump there with a commanding lead there, 74% to Nikki Haley's 22%. Ron DeSantis picking up a percent.
In another contest, President Joe Biden takes the Democratic nomination quite easily. Nearly 88% of the vote with a 12% no preference in the Democratic primary for president here in North Carolina. So far, no big surprises tonight in the race for governor in North Carolina. Attorney General Josh Stein easily comes away with the Democratic nomination.
And current Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson comfortably picking up the GOP nomination there, defeating Dale Folwell and Bill Graham. WRAL's Dan Haggerty and our Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie are joining us now to break down this race and, of course, what it all means headed into November.
Lena, thank you. So when we look at the race for governor, Josh Stein running away with things tonight as we expected. What did you take away from that race?
That came in as expected, very much so. You know, the race, it kind of mirrors the presidential race, doesn't it? We have sort of an established Democrat set up to sort of an outsider Republican.
Let's talk about that Republican, Mark Robinson, making history tonight. What was your takeaway when you saw the way that this evening progressed?
Well, I think we were expecting Robinson to win easily. That is, in fact, what happened. Dale Folwell and Bill Graham both came out higher than their polling numbers suggested. Those polls were mostly registered Republicans. So I wonder how much of those extra support for those other two candidates came from some of the unaffiliated voters that may have chosen the Republican ballot in this primary.
We can start looking ahead to the governor's race, though. We were at both candidates tonight as they were celebrating. WRAL's Aaron Thomas live in Greensboro at the Corey Center, where GOP nominee Mark Robinson and his campaign are holding their event tonight. Aaron.
That's correct, Dan. In fact, we're actually outside of the Corey Convention Center as this watch party has officially ended. Keep in mind, this is a historic night for the state of North Carolina, with the current Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson becoming the first ever black person to be nominated for governor in the state of North Carolina. That's according to any sort of parties. Let's take you to video inside the moment where Mark Robinson was actually shaking hands, signing hats among the more than 200 supporters inside. His speech lasted about 10 minutes. He ended it saying, quote, "Let's win in November and make this state red." During his speech, he looked out into the audience saying that he sees both the successes and struggles that North Carolinians face every day. And as he looks on to November, he wants to focus on education and economy. He says those are two issues that North Carolinians really care most about at this time. Take a listen to his take on reforming the education system should he become governor.
Removing agendas from the classroom and getting back to classical education, reading, writing, and mathematics, civics, history, and all those things that teach our children how to be great citizens of this constitutional republic.
And during that speech, he actually wasted no time taking jabs at his Democratic challenger, Josh Stein, saying that the difference between the two is that Robinson's part of the winning team and that Stein is part of the losing team. And as for this milestone we're referring to, this historic night, him being the first ever black person nominated for governor, he says that it's a milestone, but he says that it's a testament to overcoming odds in his life. Back to you.
Let's send things out to Eric, who's live at the Stein campaign.
Well, Dan, things certainly looking very different here in just the last hour. A lot quieter than it was just about an hour ago when Josh Stein was on that podium. You take a look at this video here, you can see the room absolutely packed with Stein supporters. Stein, of course, winning a sweeping victory here this evening and wasting no time pivoting to this general election. He called Mark Robinson's agenda, quote, disturbing, saying Robinson promotes conspiracy theories, is encouraging families to abandon public schools, and wants a total ban on abortion. Stein drew a particularly sharp contrast with his opponent there. Take a listen to this soundbite right here.
As governor, I will veto any further restrictions on women's reproductive freedoms.
Crowd there, that was the biggest reaction all night, a tremendous outpouring of support for Stein there. During his speech, Stein also pledged raises for teachers and to continue tackling violent crime, fight the opioid crisis, and to recruit quality law enforcement. Now, looking ahead to November, if Stein were to win, he would make some history himself. He'd become North Carolina's first Jewish governor. I'll send it back to you in the studio. Dan and Laura.
All right, Eric, thank you so much. So we have some candidates who are celebrating tonight. We have others who are watching the polls still. We're going to start in 13. This has been a tight race tonight. There's more than a dozen candidates. It's the newly drawn 13. Where do things stand this evening?
Right. This is the one that had 14 candidates in this race. Right now, we're looking at the top 4 of those. That's Kelly Daughtry at 27.9. You need to get to 30 to avoid a runoff. So we're still in potential runoff territory here. Brad Knott at 18.5, Fred Von Cannon 16.9, and Devon Barber at 15.3. Wake County still has not reported in yet. We're still waiting for those numbers. So that could make a big difference.
You bet. And as far as the first district, that's another tight win tonight.
Yeah, this is Lori Buckout and Sandy Smith. You can see the two of them were really close earlier tonight, but it looks like Lori Buckout is pulling ahead as more and more of those numbers start coming in. She is a political newcomer facing Sandy Smith, who's kind of a longtime Republican regular in that district. The winner of tonight's race will be facing Don Davis in the general election in November.
Right. So we'll see how things shape up, Lena, as we continue to monitor these vote counts into the evening.
Absolutely. The night is still young. Dan and Laura, thanks so much. Our 2024 primary coverage does not end here. You will see a complete list of results scrolling at the bottom of your screen. You can also search for specific race results on WRAL.com and on the WRAL app. And look for more live shots and analysis through this newscast and our News at 11 on WRAL.
In other news tonight, breaking tonight, 2 people are in the hospital after this crash